All right, roll call then. Dr. Ashraf, Rick Thompson,
Here.
Blair Parker, Brian Tibbs, Melanie Doss,
Here.
Robert Campbell,
Here.
Frank Waxter, Rob Barrick,
Here.
Jeff Nally, Alton Heathcote.
Pleased to pieces to be here.
All right, good deal. Jason Carter.
Here.
And James Collins.
Here.
All right, great. Chair, we do have quorum. If it pleases the chair, we'll move on to announcements.
Please, let's move on.
Okay. Unless does the board have any announcements not already shared? If not, I can move on to just sort of a couple administrative items. I'll just pause for a second in case there was announcements that anyone wanted to share. All right, hearing none then. I'd like to just make one introduction. We have a new staff member, Phil Loco. He's sitting here at the end. He's going to be helping us out. He's helping out right now with engineering applications. Heidi recently was promoted to admin manager, was working that. So we have to backfill that, and he may be doing that for a little while longer, but maybe shifting over to land surveyors. I know. And those guys.
We're
right?
sorry.
And also landscape architects and interior designers. So he may be pitching in there. And we're trying to make sure all of our folks are cross-trained as well. So that'll be his two primary disciplines. All right. Also, just our assistant commissioner Alex Martin. He has joined us. He's sitting here over my left shoulder to your right, and he doesn't have any comments or anything to necessarily address the board, but just want to make himself available to meet some of our new members, but also make himself available to the rest. And so thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. All right. I think we're good then to move to the agenda.
We move on to the roll call.
Yes, sir. And we're just ready. We just need a vote on the agenda, a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's okay. Just if there's any edits, that's fine as well. But just need a vote in that regard. Are there any edits? Okay.
We get a motion to approve.
I move you approve.
Sorry.
Right. We got a motion from Mr. Campbell. Do we have a second for Mr. Tibbs? All right, great. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing none then, the agenda is approved as is. I think we're ready for the February minutes. And also just a reminder to everyone, we can't hear you unless you're on, until we see that red. So, just the usual reminder for I have to, some folks have to nudge me every once in a while too, but I want to capture all that since we have folks calling in as well. All right, February minutes. Do we have any edits?
Motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barrick. We had a motion from Mr. Barrick. Do we have a second?
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. All right, got that taken care of. The professional society reports. Do we have a representative from Landscape Architects? Let me just pause. All right. I don't think Mr. Ridley's here today. Probably up on the hill. Are you on the line? All right. All right. Hearing none, we'll move on then next. Do we have Miss Anderson? Okay. It is legislative session, so they're hard at work. All right. Do we have Miss Cates? Okay. Great. We do have a representative from Interior Design. So I'm glad they'll be on the line. Let's see if we've got Matthew Baruch from CIDQ. Mr. Baruch, are you there?
I am. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Matthew Baruch, the Director of Government Affairs for the Council for Interior Design Qualification. Pleasure to be here, and I just have a few updates for the board. So for those who may not be familiar, the Council for Interior Design Qualification administers the NCIDQ exam, the prerequisite examination for registered interior designers in the United States and in the state of Tennessee. We are currently in our spring administration window, and 3,200 exams approximately more than 3,200 exams have been purchased to be taken during our April administration window. Coming in February 1st, 2024, after that date, we will be instituting new work experience requirements for candidates for the NCIDQ exam. The hours themselves won't change. We will still be requiring a minimum of 2 years of work experience to be eligible to take the exam. But for applications submitted after February 1st, 2024, candidates will be required to complete minimum hours in 6 different categories, including design development, contract administration, schematic design, and professional practice, among others. And more information, I'm happy to answer any questions on that, and more information about those requirements can be found on our website. As a member of the Interorganizational Council on Regulation, CIDQ is actively participating in the Practice Overlap Task Force, which will seek to develop uniform guidelines and definitions for competent overlap of practice that can be adopted as the recommended definitions in model law and guidance issued by the I-Corps organizations. By conducting additional research and broadening this effort, I-Corps plans for this cooperation to result in clear and shared definitions, guidelines, or best practices that professional licensing authorities can use to better regulate practice overlap. I'm very excited about that effort. The steering committee met in Nashville in January of this year, and the subcommittees for all the design professions will be meeting at NCEES headquarters in May of this year as well. We're also excited to announce the launch of our DEI scholarship opportunity. The DEI scholarship will provide individuals from underrepresented groups in the interior design community with access and opportunities to advance their careers, and will provide the community with increased access to a diverse pool of talented professionals. We've just opened the application for that scholarship, and the deadline for that is May 31st, 2023. And finally, our annual meeting will be held this year in Louisville, Kentucky from November 10th through the 12th. And we do hope to see some of you in attendance in Nashville at that meeting. With that said, thank you for having me today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Baruch.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for the report. I do believe we have some additional professionals that would like to report as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to approach the podium to my right and address the board?
Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Claudia Lofton. I'm a registered interior designer with the state of Tennessee, and I am here on behalf of the IIDA Tennessee chapter.
And I am Hannah Durham. I'm here on behalf of ASID, and I'm the current finance director and past president. All right. I'll go ahead and just give a few updates from what's been going on at ASID. It's been a minute since we've given a full update, so just more of a broad spectrum. We continue to have monthly board meetings. We also have monthly chapter meetings, continuing education units, as well as additional events that can be sponsored by us as ASID or our industry partners or a combination of. There's a monthly president's call with national representatives and the surrounding district leaders just to discuss what's going on and give any feedback to the local chapters and districts. We still continue to have our state yearly conference, and our design awards is coming up this year. We do have that every other year, and this year we're also including students in those as well. We are having our yearly national conference. That's now a combination of both the board leadership conference and any interior designers in the membership, as well as students. So all combined, we call that Gather, which is really nice. And we will have representatives from our board and local membership attending that in Los Angeles this year, I believe. We have our yearly industry partner appreciation event coming up. Per usual, we just like to honor those who've been supporting us through the years, and of course open to all membership as well. We've been attending career days throughout Tennessee as well, just diving back into the students. So we really want to make sure we have a presence at each of those schools, those CIDQ certified schools. And we have been speaking to students specifically throughout the year about ASID and just interior design in general. And those include UTC, UTK, Belmont, and a good update, ETS start an ASID student chapter. And we were able to recently, as our most recent meeting there, and encouraging more, and really all of these schools to be sitting for the NCIDQ exam, how to get there, and really just making sure if they need anything from us as professionals to help them with that, we're here. We also have an ASID fellow, Leslie Shankman-Cohn. She's a recognized leader in the interior design community who demonstrates leadership excellence, outstanding commitment, and a positive impact in ASID and the industry.
And former member of this board.
Correct. Yes, and she's also on the ASID National Advocacy Board as well, which is a really great honor. So for locally in Nashville, we've had advocacy bi-monthly Zoom calls with our national advocates. That includes ASID, IIDA, CIDQ, which started in December, and we can go more into that jointly. Really, the emphasis has just been to get our members registered as interior designers with the state, and of course, taking the NCIDQ. A YouTube video was sent to all accredited schools in Tennessee to boost our NCIDQ numbers. And in addition to joint efforts between us, a post-advocacy package was sent out to all our ASID and IIDA members containing some simple white papers that allows you to just have a 5-minute or less conversation with anyone interested in advocacy, getting involved, and additional advocacy content from both ASID and IIDA nationals. In Memphis, we had our annual Design Week, and that's just honoring Interior Design Awareness Month in October. And so that's also a joint venture with IDS, local chapters there. In Chattanooga, we have our upcoming yearly participation in the BRIC Awards. That's the building recognition in Chattanooga. And that's on April 20th. This awards is an annual event to recognize excellence in the building industry and around Chattanooga, Tennessee. The BRIC Awards are presented by professional organizations and their members to highlight projects of note in architecture, construction, engineering, sustainability, and design. Proceeds from the awards benefit Chattanooga's ACE mentorship program, and monthly meetings with networking CEUs for professionals and students. That's been pretty active recently in the Chattanooga area. And collaborative meetings and events with AIA Chattanooga are continuing. Volunteer collaboration this summer and a professional student mixer in the fall will happen as well. Knoxville, we're also having collaborative meetings with ASID and IDS. And we have student participation from UTK, ETSU, and Carson Newman. I'm going to hand it to you for IIDA.
Thank you, Hannah. So we have a lot of similar events going on for our chapter here in Tennessee. I'll go statewide first. We have our monthly board meetings as well as our chapter meetings that happen. We do quarterly national advocacy calls just to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening with interior design legislation across the United States. We have biannual chapter leadership council meetings at nationals in Chicago. We just had one in February that was focused on advocacy. We did a virtual Q&A this past year with the IIDA Tennessee board members so that everybody in the chapter could kind of get to know us. I don't think I mentioned I'm the current VP of Advocacy, but rolling into the president-elect role in July. We had Matt and a member of the NCARB group give us a presentation this past year on the joint report that came out, which was really awesome. We continue to host our annual Zero Landfill Days across the state, which allows a lot of the interior design community to donate old materials from their libraries to local schools and things of that nature. We are continuing to do toast and tours across the state, which gives all of our membership and students a great opportunity to go and see projects mid-construction as well as finished tours of professional projects. We have our biannual design awards gala that just happened in September. And then every other year we do our annual Threads event, which will be happening this year. We have multiple firms that participate as well as student team participants, as well as our annual food drive, our biannual NCIDQ study prep groups for the 2 times a year that exam is offered, and then our annual student sponsorship for the IIDA annual shift conference. And then in Nashville specifically, we've been doing an advocacy speaker series. Melanie was a part of that last year, did a great presentation on the importance of registering with the state and taking the NCIDQ exam for all of our members. We continue to host CEU days. We participate in Nashville Design Week. We hold 2 annual mixer events, one for new members at Arrington Vineyards. That'll be coming up in April, later this month, and then our annual PINS event. And then in Knoxville, we have a lot going on at UTK. We have a really active student membership there. So we participate in speed mentoring days as well as portfolio reviews there. We host an annual Cinco de CEU Day on May 5th every year, so you can go and get like 15 CEUs in one day. The annual NoxCon event, which is a play on NeoCon recap, so we have a bunch of our trade members set up and allow designers and students to come view new products. Our core challenge social event, and then a women in construction discussion, which happens in March, which is the Women in Construction Month. In Chattanooga, we actually started a city center down there last year, so that's really exciting. We are working on getting the professional membership in Chattanooga up right now. I think we have about 9 members that are professional so far, and we're trying to get that to 15. We host student mock interviews at UTC as well as CEU days. And then similarly in Memphis, we have an annual field day event, CEU days, and then some mind body social events. And then Matt, did you want to do the CIDQ updates?
Already did those. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. All right. All right, we'll go into just a few of the things that ASID, IIDA, and CIDQ have been working on over the past year together.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it a little bit in both of our reports, but we have been having monthly advocacy calls with ASID, IIDA, and CIDQ, both locally and nationally, just to discuss the local political climate, local and beyond, just so we can see what other markets are doing as well. Recent legislation, and then just overall local interest in interior design legislation. So just kind of seeing what's going on in the world, really, for us and how we can implement that locally to our chapters. We did have our first joint advocacy event held on March 3rd at Belmont University. Other than the weather, it was a complete success. We still had a ton of Zoom on, as well as members who did brave the weather that day. And we were able to gather a good amount of those who were interested in seeing just where the profession is going and supporting us along the way, which is great. And so we also wanted to make an official announcement that ASID, CIDQ, and IDA announced that we're committing to a collaborative advocacy effort for local recognition and reasonable regulation of the interior design profession through the formation of the Joint Consortium for Interior. Questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Campbell.
First of all, thank you all for being here. It's Melanie does a great job, but hearing it from outside the board, I think, really helps give us a flavor for all the things that you're doing. And you know, every profession has their challenges, with different things, and so we're interested to see how this advocacy consortium, or whatever the right word is, comes together and what it. And just thank you again. Melanie does a great job, but hearing from the outside, the board world, gives us a pretty good perspective on what you're doing. So I hope you all will, find a spokesman or a way to be part of this going forward. So So
And that's why we're here today. So we want to continue these efforts and hopefully have another update for you soon.
Thank you all very much. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We and
Glenn?
yes, sir.
Ashley actually is trying to
Oh,
get in.
yes,
If you could, she's
yeah.
trying to get accepted in.
Okay, thank you for that update. We don't have any other pings on our website and on that link, but we can circle back. So if we get Ashley, if you're out there, if you go to our link, and this is a great opportunity to pause for anyone that might be actually watching. If they're watching, they found the link, right? So and maybe it's going to fall on deaf ears, but to share with other folks too here and that may not know otherwise that are present. Our link right there is our portal. If you click on watch, that's a different thing than connect. Connect is you actually joining the meeting. Watch is just you watching it as not a participant. So that's a distinction that you'll want to keep in mind too as you're trying to join. So maybe Brian, just if you could send that their way. Oh, there she is! Yay! All right, thank you, Ashley. Glad you can go ahead and start us off. We're ready for you.
Oh.
Ashley, we just wrapped up an update from the interior designers, and you're next on the list if you want to go.
Oh, great. Thank you. My apologies. I had a family conflict and I can't be there in person today. My name is Ashley Cates. I'm Executive Vice President of AIA Tennessee. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in June. Just give you a brief update. You know, the legislative session is starting to wind down, but it's also very busy over on the Hill. We're looking at the supplemental budget for capital outlay and for improvements and maintenance, and so we're excited to see there's quite a bit of funding in the budget for that, which supports all of us and the professions. So we're monitoring that. Our Day on the Hill was a success. We were able to bring in quite a few individuals that have not been to our Day on the Hill. They're not quite our regulars. So they had a great time. We had discussions on the importance of building codes. A lot of times we see issues in the legislative session and bills being introduced as it relates to building codes. And so educating our legislators on the importance of how we can change those codes, but not requiring it in statute, because the professions, of course, they don't go to statute typically to see what's happening in codes. And so just having that conversation, that continual education. If you have a constituent, usually it's a constituent question or issue, and no one really knows how to fix it. So having the conversation and educating our legislators on if there's concerns that come up throughout the year, we'll be happy to talk to them and try to figure out a way to implement those changes for the benefit of the public while not keeping it in statute. So that was really our major talking point, and as well as talking about how the design and construction industry plays in the economic times, and how we are kind of on the front end of, and look like a thermometer on how things are going with the economy. So those are the two discussion topics we had on our Day on the Hill this year. So we're going to be circling back around with our emerging professionals and having an EP, Emerging Professional Advocacy Roadshow. So once session wraps up, we're going to be reaching out to each of our local components in Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, and having those discussions and getting those on the calendar. So we're excited for that, and we'll be on the lookout. I'll probably be able to tell you more in June or August on those specific details. Looking forward into the summer, we're going to have our conference on architecture in Memphis. That's where we provide most of our CE. We provide some CE, of course, online and then with our local chapters. But our major summer conference is going to be in Memphis, August 2nd through the 4th this year. And I can provide information to Glenn on that. Registration will roll out probably in April. or mid-May, and we'll get that going. But it's going to be at the Hyatt Centric on Beale Street. We're really excited. It's a super awesome, cool new hotel. And then I think that some of our emerging professionals probably like the fact that it's downtown, right on Beale Street. As far as anything else right now, we're also working on a public outreach. We have a public outreach committee, and we are going to develop a speakers bureau. So that will provide the opportunity for our members, if they have presented on a specific topic, that we're going to start kind of cataloging that. And then we have industries and we have organizations that reach out to us over time for specific presentations. And so this will be helpful for us to go ahead and kind of vet some members and their presentations and be able to provide, that kind of contact for them to be able to reach out and promote the profession. So that's right now is kind of the second quarter update for you, and I'll have more information as we move along into the rest of the year. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'll pivot over to our architect members here. Any questions, follow-up, comments, or
Questions,
all right.
Jim? No, I don't think we have any. Good job, Ashley. You answered everything we were going to ask.
All right. Well, thanks. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll see you in June for sure.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cates. Appreciate your time. I just want to commend all the associations. There's various consortiums. There's ICOR. All the different associations play well together in the sandbox, and then this is just a microcosm of that. This board here as well, and so I appreciate that and find that very commendable. All right, so I think we're ready then for the director's report. I've got just one informational item, the budget, and then we'll have a vote to send folks as our representatives to the NCARB annual meeting and the NCWS annual meeting. So as for the budget, we did our deep dive last meeting because we had our reserves. We also went into some of those line items, what they mean with for our new members as well. And then we did all the trending through all the way through November. So we've only got 2 months of record that we haven't covered yet. So we've got December and January. So I'm gonna drill down there and just take a look at those. I didn't see anything that just jumped out at me. There wasn't any line items that there were any concern that were outside of the trending. And then also looking at the expense report, those allocations that were made. There wasn't anything on there that was outside the normal, so we're still adding to our reserves at this point, and at some point in the near future, after we get past some of those focal events. One of those was while we want to see the trending with some of the data coming in from the universities. We talked about that last meeting, but also get on the other side of this contract we have with our new platform, since we're in negotiations and some discussions about whether or not we stay with our current vendor. Then we can dig more into the budget. If it continues to add to the once we get on the other side of those events and we have more data, as discussed before, then we can look at what we need to do, if anything, to the budget at that time. But right now, we're fiscally strong and things are tracking in the right direction. So let's see, any just immediate question or anything that jumped out at you? Yeah, we're got 500,000 in basically in surplus at this time. All right, well, let's get on to the annual meetings then. Before we jump into the voting for the NCARB annual meeting, I just wanted to touch on the meeting we just had with NCARB. Wasn't expecting necessarily a formal update, so I won't put anyone on the spot. But of course, wanted to follow up with any comments that you may have. But just a couple of things that I noted as the new guy here, going with these three architect members, and wanted to brag on them a little bit too. So if I told them in advance, they wouldn't. I imagine Brian Tibbs in particular would shut me down. So just surprising him. I'd like to just a quick update there. The main topic of discussion, and I won't get into particulars of that. I know our chair and Mr. Tibbs and Waxer would be better prepared for that piece of it. But just to introduce the main item was governance, particularly the potential realignment or redistricting of the regions. with several proposals that were being floated out there. It's been well over 50 years since that's been done, so it's a big lift. It's not something that's they're. This is something they've been talking about for a long time. They've had a lot of resources devoted to this piece, and that they're going to be wrapping that up, we hope, at Tampa at the annual meeting. And so there's still some work to be done on that front. I couldn't be prouder of our 3 architect members. I was just noticing their interactions with their peers, but it became very clear to me that they're well respected amongst their counterparts across the state. So we can be very, very proud and thankful to have them representing Tennessee. Mr. Tibbs in particular, he ran for office, candidacy for the Secretary Treasurer of Region 3, our region. He ran against another candidate with 2 back-to-back votes from all the states ending in a tie. So, and nobody was budging, but one more vote ending a tie would require a tie-breaking vote from the regional director. So that's where that was headed. And the regional director was going to have to make that decision, which is putting a lot of pressure on him. I wouldn't want to be that guy, And for the sake of region unity and harmony, your member did a very classy move. He graciously conceded the race to his opponent, which was received warmly by the region and his peers. So it was very gracious, and I was very thankful and was proud to have witnessed that and wanted to share that with the board.
I think anything other than that behavior would be unexpected from Brian. That's outstanding, and what an excellent example of integrity and character. Thank you.
Well, they also mentioned the dance off too. So
he had it in the bag and still still put it away. Any comments from the members?
No, I would too like to thank Brian for stepping up and making that easier. And I thought we had it in the bag, but he kind of quit on us a little early. But yeah, we were working the crowd for him. But anyway, no, you did a great job, and thank you so much.
Yeah, sure did.
I kept saying, "Don't do it, don't do it." Then he did it anyway.
The only hecklers were coming from his own table. All right, good times. All right. Unless there's any further comments as regards to the update, but we should have an update when they come back from Tampa. And so as to what's happening with governance, and hopefully that's moved along. There was some really good, thoughtful solutions that were offered. And so I think it's probably going to require, if they go the direction from what I can tell, it may require them carving up the map a little bit. So we'll see. So far I haven't heard anything about them carving up our district. So our Region 3 would remain intact, but some of the one proposal, without going into all of it, would require a couple of the smaller ones joining together. And so I think that's the part that's always a tough pill to swallow for anyone when they feel like their representation is being diluted, or if that's the perception. That's not necessarily the case, but trying to articulate that in a way to the benefit of the entire association, that can be a heavy lift. So a lot of work being done on that front. So thank you for your participation, your work in that regard. All right, so I guess we can go to the vote then. NCARB annual meeting, that is in Tampa. We just need a motion to send our 3 members to that meeting. That's in June 15th to the 17th.
So move.
So,
All right, got a motion from Ms. Doss. Do we have a second?
second.
Got a second from Mr. Parker. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none.
And one thing I might add, got together
Yes,
funded member.
Yep, that's right.
And NCARB.
That's right. Yep. So that's correct. And Tibbs will be our delegate voting member. And then of course, and to thank you for, you must have stolen my notes from me and looking over my shoulder. Thompson and Waxter will be our state fund, Thompson and Tibbs. Right. All right. So it's a good thing I didn't read my notes. I'm glad you stepped in. But yes, that's correct. So you'll be our state funded. They'll be our NCARB funded folks. All right. Good. Very good. All right, we've got that down. I think we're ready then for the NCWS annual meeting. That'll be in June 15th through the 18th in Boston, Massachusetts. We've got 3 members and 1 first-time attender are eligible. So, do we have so to our first-time members, we could send, of course, Mr. Collins if he wanted to go, or Mr. Nally as well. But that'll be in Boston from August. That's correct. I put them down, but August 15th to the 18th. Dr. Ash, he wasn't able to go on our last time, but he did indicate that he'd be able to participate on this round. So I would submit to the board, and Dr. Ash being one of those members.
How many?
3, and then one first time. And so Dr. Ash could qualify technically as the first time as well if we don't get a taker on that front.
I think we ought to send Ash and Jason, and then somebody else that's been there before, which would probably be Alton. James as well.
Yeah, I would love to go, but I'm actually going to be out of the country during that time.
So right now, and you were suggesting that Dr. Ash, Mr. Carter, and then Mr. Barrick, any other interest? Mr. Nally, anyone on that front?
I've got a conflict on those dates.
Okay.
As well.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's go down the row for availability, and then that might just make the decision for us. How about that? Okay. So, Dr. Ash is one. We know. Mr. Barrick, do you have any availability for August? Okay. So, right now, availability wise, we got Dr. Ash and Mr. Barrick, and we have Alton. Where are you at on availability?
It's whatever my wife tells me.
So
I think, to my knowledge,
okay,
if I've practiced active listening like I'm supposed to, I think I'm okay for those dates.
Okay. I understand. So if you get a kitchen pass then, and you can go, then then Alton's got availability. Robert Campbell, do you have availability?
Probably do.
Okay. And then Mr. Nally. Okay. Then we can just do you as an alternate, and then that way we can get at least grant authority. So then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So we need 3 out of Dr. Ash, Mr. Barrick, Alton, and Robert, and with Mr. Nally serving as an alternate. And potentially, if a slot opens up for first time, then Dr. Ash can slide into that. So maybe 2 alternates. So we need 3 primary out of that list, 2 alternates, and then we'll have our slate.
What day did you say that was?
August 15th to the 18th. They have a time frame on it. It's like a year and a half, I think. It's just, yeah. No, I looked at all that too. First time attender to me meant first time attender, regardless how long you've been on the board, but it's like a year and a half. Right, so do we have 3 primaries, Dr. Ash being one of those, and then who's the other 2 primaries? Mr. Barrick, would you be, we would just need that, of course, in the form of a motion. Then Alton and Campbell would be one of our other primaries. And then that 2 secondaries after that. So we just need a motion in that regard. So Alton and Robert, which one of you would like to be our primaries?
Well, I think it'd probably be best for having Alton as the primary, and then if we had an extra one, I could certainly go.
So then, right now, our primaries would be Dr. Ash, Rob Barrick, Alton, Heathcote, and then our secondaries would be Mr. Campbell and then Mr. Nally. And then, based on if we have an extra slot open up by that first-time attender, that might just help us out there on that front. But and then I'll keep you updated on that. So we just need that in the form of a motion. Do we have a motion in that regard?
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Tibbs. I'm sorry, Chair, if you wanted to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second, motion and second. All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Second to
Excuse me, just a second, Glenn. I just want a courtesy statement. Everybody, please speak into your microphone.
Yes.
'Cause I can barely hear you, Rob. I didn't know. Unless you don't want it to be recorded.
I'll do better
All
next
right,
time. My apologies.
Okay, that's your one shot now. Okay, all right.
Boy, that was tense. I mean, did y'all feel that too?
Yeah. Glad that's out of the way.
Mr. Chairman, as somebody who's been to Boston in February, March, and November, and in August is much better time to go for you all. So.
Good point. I have also done that in the winter, and it's tough. So.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll check we'll test the commitment when if they have something in November, right, or December. All right. So as it pertains to this, and one other item on NCWS annual meeting, as it pertains to the Southern Zone meeting in Houston from April 27th to 29th, we've got Mr. Carter and Mr. Campbell are going to be attending that meeting. There was some indication that they would appreciate some further direction from their engineer members. So just as a side note, and if it gets contentious, then we'll just, Chair, if you would please, we'll just do sort of maybe adjourn just temporarily if we need that. I don't suspect we'll need that, but if we did, and then that way they can finish that up. But I suspect it'll be pretty clear. There's two positions that we're talking about. There's some nominees that the Southern Zone is going to have to make a decision on. That doesn't necessarily warrant a separate committee meeting for that. So, and then if it looks like there's no clear sort of indicator about where the engineers want to go on that, then they could also defer to Mr. Carter and Mr. Campbell as their proxies, and that's perfectly fine and appropriate as well. So, but it really comes down to two offices that the Southern Zone is going to be voting on at that meeting in Houston. They've got two nominees that they would like to present. One is for president-elect, and the other is for assistant vice president. The president-elect is Timothy Rickborn, and the engineer members they've received the link to their CVs and their presentation of qualifications. So they've had an opportunity to look at that and make a decision in regards to that. But they just needed some indication as to whether they want Timothy Rickborn or Andrew Zetweller for president-elect, and then Jimmy Chow, Aaron Morris, or Sina Nijad for assistant vice president. So, Mr. Campbell, if you'd like to open up that discussion for a moment.
I know some of those guys, and I'm sure you all do too. Let's start with the assistant vice president. Jimmy Chow, I think, would be the person that I would recommend. He's a structural engineer from South Carolina. Got his own practice. Has been, I think, now on there for 2 or 3 years. Very engaging guy, and is always very knowledgeable about what's going on. So I would like for our engineering committee to support him as
I agree with Robert. That would have been my recommendation too.
Engineers on the rest of the panel, do y'all have any comments in regards?
I defer to them, and I'm happy to follow their lead.
All right. Well, Dr. Ash, did you have anything you want to add?
I looked them up all yesterday.
Okay.
They were all qualified.
Oh, very well. Yeah, it looked like a pretty strong slate. So, so Andrew Chow then, and then for assistant vice president, and then Andrew Zetweller or Timothy Rickborn. Now, Andrew Zetweller, I believe he is our president for the region right now.
He's Southern Zone president,
right.
And then Rickborn was
treasurer and head of the finance committee for a while too.
Yeah. So
I've worked with both of them on the finance committee, and they're both very competent, very capable, excellent leaders. My tendency would be to support Andy in his bid. I think he has the capacity to be objective and fair, and would be an excellent leader.
I think that's probably right. I think Mr. Rickborn's done some great things with the finance committee, and there have been a lot of challenges over the years, and he's been in the middle of it. But and probably even more for a little bit more pragmatic reason. I think Timothy's from South Carolina, and Andrew's a North Carolina guy. So I mean, it would kind of be it splits that up just a little bit too. I mean, that may be but it does, spreads it out a little bit. And again, I think both would be great, but I agree with you. I think Andrew would be who I would recommend.
Any comments from the rest of our panel? No. Okay. Very well. Yeah, I find I haven't had the pleasure to meet Mr. Rick Bourne, but I have met Andy as the region president, and he's very engaging, very passionate, and so I think he'd be a great choice. So, all right, so that looks like Andy's it well then, and then Jimmy Chow to our delegates that are going to be going to that meeting. So very well, thank you. That was pretty easy then. Okay. Thank you for the indulgence for the rest of the board. I appreciate that brief sort of sidebar and allowing that. I think we're then ready for legal.
Good morning. Number one on the legal report is 2023-002351. Respondent self-reported that they stamped plans on one project in Tennessee while their license was expired. The respondent has renewed their license. This was reviewed by Jason Carter. Mitigating factors, it's self-reported and immediately renewed the license. So the recommendation is authorize a civil penalty of $500 for stamping plans on one project while license was expired, and respondent shall take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Number two is 2023-004691. Complainant is a city mechanical inspector that was presented an engineer's certification of inspection for a restaurant grease exhaust duct covered prior to inspection by the inspection department. Upon attempting to verify the professional's license, it was discovered that the seal affixed to the document has been expired since 2015. Respondent stamped the letter regarding the grease exhaust duct installation and inadvertently used the old Tennessee professional engineer stamp, which had already expired in 2015. When respondent was informed that they used the expired PE stamp, respondent rewrote the letter and replaced the expired PE stamp with the new valid PE stamp. This was validated by the complainant. This was reviewed by board member Robert Campbell. Mitigating factor here is that respondent is properly licensed. And the aggravating factor is they used an expired seal. The recommendation on this one is a letter of warning.
Motion to
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
I have a question. I didn't realize that our stamps were dated differently. A 2015 versus a current stamp. Is that right? I mean, I've had one stamp since I've been licensed from eons ago. Why would I have a second?
There were two separate license numbers. When we researched this, it looked like that the old license was a paper copy, and it wasn't entered into our core account. So when they were asked if they had applied before, they said no instead of yes, and so it didn't catch it. And then also because they weren't in the system properly, that license wasn't caught, and so they got a new license number and a new stamp.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can you please speak into the
microphone? Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I will.
Right here. Come on.
Yeah.
You know it's worth it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, signify by aye. Signify by aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And something's wrong with this thing.
And number three, 2023-004151. Complainant alleges respondent has practiced negligently without a thorough examination of the complainant's submitted documents. The report contains numerous errors that leads to a recommendation discrediting complainant's report and design. Respondent requested to look at the piping contractor's concern that the Unistrut channel sections being provided for the installation project were undersized and inadequate. Piping contractor provided 2 documents that showed calculations that the Unistrut section supplied was not adequate for the job. Respondent included both of those documents showing that the concern of the piping contractor that what they were being told to use were not adequate for the project needs in some configurations. Respondent reviewed the different piping support configurations given on the drawings and provided using industry-wide utilized load charts readily available online for all the various sizes of Unistrut channel, a load capacity for a given span, 4 different variations of Unistrut channel. Respondent feels the complainant took exception to the capacity values given in respondent's calculation package, which agreed with the original concern voiced by the piping contractor. Respondent did not review the calculations submitted because the capacity of Unistrut is taken from a table. There is no need to review someone else's work. The respondent believes that there is no need to review someone else's work when the capacity can be taken right from a table. Complainant has requested the complaint to be withdrawn due to a miscommunication with respondents. This was reviewed by Board Member Alton Heathcote, and the recommendation is to close.
There was one other mitigating factor to that that's not mentioned here, and that's that they actually gave him the wrong drawings originally. When he got the right drawings, that's why the complainant removed the complaint.
Chairman, I move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Number 4 is 2023-006631. Complainant filed a previous complaint against respondent, which was closed with no action. The complainant now states that the Homeowners Association received an invoice from respondent in the amount of $600. Complainant states that there was no contract with respondent and now alleges respondent is committing fraud. Respondent claims that he is being forced to spend his valuable time responding to baseless accusations and his team asked to account for his time. Respondent sent an invoice to the Homeowners Association as it was their culvert that respondent initially evaluated and found to be inoperable. Respondent then had the previous complaint filed against him, which caused him to spend time for a response. Respondent believes that future litigation will probably be filed, so he is keeping up with his time in case there is a need for restitution. This was reviewed by Board Member Rob Barrick, and the recommendation is to close.
Recommendation. We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Number 5, 2023-009811. Respondent self-reported of practicing on an expired license. The respondent's license expired on 4/30 of 22, and respondent has been working on a project in Tennessee while the license expired. Respondent has since renewed the license. This was reviewed by Board Member Jason Carter. Mitigating factors is self-reported and immediately renewed the license. Recommendation is authorize a civil penalty of $500 for stamping plans on one project while a license was expired, and respondent shall take and pass the laws and rules exam.
Motion. Motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That concludes the legal report.
All right. Looks like our next up is new business. Any new business? All right. Then hearing none, Chair, we can. It would be up to you to adjourn. I'll just pause and give you that opportunity, or unless you had something else that you'd like to share.
I would like to go back to the NCARB meeting for just a brief statement.
Please.
It's an interesting dilemma they have we have in the country, in that we have our Division 3, our 6th country, couple of those only have like 3 states. And so the whole point was try to realign everything. Do you remember the number of citizens that present? It was over a third of the United States is in our region. So we have 12 states in our region. I don't think anything's going to happen to us in the states moving. If anything, we might add a state, but we're not going to lose any states. And I would recommend that we get one more state, so next time there won't be a tie. No, but it was the meeting was very, very worthwhile. And it's one of those meetings that you don't miss because it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. For 50 years they haven't done anything, and it's worked fine until recently when it's just every state has one vote, which it stood in every district, so 54. And it's something that's very important, and I would like to thank the state for letting us go there, because it was a major deliberation, and we look forward to Tampa to hopefully get it resolved. So with that, just thank you for all our participation. Thank you for yours. So
thank you. All right, I think we're ready. Unless there's any further comments or new business, Chair.
Seeing none, let's
move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, and the meeting is adjourned. I don't think we have to have a motion.
No, I don't think so. I used to.
But
we
I
used to do that,
second
but
that
you
motion.
second, and we'll
Yeah.
take it. All right.
So
We
the
are-
meeting is